So, after all that, a happy ending.
Ever since the debut of Better Call Saul, there was always a question of what would be the fate of the characters in this show, excluding the obvious like Saul, Gus, Mike, Victor, Tyrus, and Huel, whose fate is yet to still be revealed, by the way. Maybe he's still in that safe house, who knows? But in this case, I'm referring to Howard, Nacho, Kim, and Lalo. And after watching the mid-season finale, we're given the fate of Nacho in Season 6, Episode 3, and Howard in Season 6, Episode 7, which ironically for both was a bullet to the head. As of recording, Kim and Lalo's fate is still up for debate, and the only mention we get of them in Breaking Bad is a passing comment from Saul.
Lalo didn't send you? No, Lalo!
Her name's Kim New Song. As delicious as it's...
But we know in Better Call Saul, those same characters are explored and given some of the best character development of any show in recent years. And with the show coming to an end, we know something pretty big has to happen for Kim and Jimmy to separate. And for Lalo, I mean, it's no secret that he has to die, simply for the fact that he's the only person that makes Gus actually nervous. And when we see Gus in Breaking Bad, he's cool, he's calculated, and he's 100% in control. So again, something pretty big has to happen for the ties to shift the way they do. So in this video, I'm going to do some theorizing about what's to come in the second half of the finale when it comes to Kim and Lalo. And if you can leave a like on this video to support the channel and even consider subscribing to stay up to date with the latest content, I'd really appreciate it. Now, I would be remiss not to at least give my take on Nacho's death. As far as Howard, I talk about him in depth in another video that you can find in the description or somewhere on the screen here. Okay, so Nacho, aka Ignacio Varga, was someone who became one of my favorite characters in the later seasons of Better Call Saul, mainly because he was different than the usual side characters and henchmen of the series. He was somewhere between the morality of Mike and the disposability of Victor. Not a good guy being bad or a bad guy being good, but he's someone who's been in the game for a while and he's been trying to get out since dealing with Tuco. But when Don Hector wanted to use his dad's shop for a front for his drug business, he knew he had to do something. And with Nacho, the only thing that he loved was his dad, and the actions that he took to ensure that his dad would be safe put him in the same position that would have him turn the gun on himself, making him the architect of his own destruction. But his death, coupled with his last words, really solidified it as one of the most iconic scenes in the Breaking Bad universe. Because with that confession, it cleared Gus's name in Juan Bosa's eyes, and he escaped the torture from the Salamancas that was hinted at in some of the background shots of the scene. And of course, he had the final words, and the fact that Hector was shooting his dead body after his death really confirmed that. Now, I'm not going to lie, I really thought he would actually get out. I had this theory that Mike could have arranged something with the vet, because we do find out that the vet has the vacuum card for Ed to disappear, but I guess Mike wouldn't have known that, and plus the vet didn't want to see Nacho anymore again after the whole make it look real debacle, so I guess it couldn't have worked.
But hey, that's just a theory.
And besides, when he gets pulled out of that van, he's literally surrounded by everyone we see in Breaking Bad, from Hector, Gus, the twins, Bolsa, Tyrus, Victor, and Mike with a sniper. At that point, I knew he wasn't coming out alive. But he died knowing that his dad would be safe and it was on his own terms. And in the end, that's all that really mattered to him. And it also added to the fact that once you're in the game, there's really no clean way out. And with that being said, let's talk about Lalo Salamanca, who's arguably the best villain the series has ever introduced. He's intelligent, charismatic, but he can also be vicious and sadistic when the situation calls for it. And we see that he'll kill people simply for getting in his way, like how he did Howard at Kim's apartment or the guy Fred from the Travel Wire. And like I mentioned earlier, he's the only person that Gus truly fears, because not only is Lalo persistent, but he's the only person who actually knows that Gus is working on a secret project, and he's driven to uncover that secret meth lab project to prove to Bolsa and Don Eladio that he'll eventually sabotage and undercut the cartel. And with that failed assassination attempt, Lalo's more driven than ever to expose Gus's secret and even get the cartel's permission to kill him. As we see in Season 6, Episode 7, Lalo's been hiding in the sewer like Pennywise for 4 days watching the laundromat, just plotting, but not exactly sure how to strike. And for Gus, he has no idea where Lalo could attack from, and the lack of control puts him on edge. And despite Mike's calm and straightforward demeanor or the amount of men that Gus has surveilling the area, Gus knows that Lalo is planning something, but he can't seem to figure it out, and we as the audience are just as clueless and on edge as Gus is. Which brings me to my theory. Disclaimer, this video may or may not be real, it's pure speculation, so don't at me in the comments saying, how come I didn't mention the fact that, shut up. Just enjoy the possibility of what if. So we pick up at Jim and Kimmy's apartment with Howard's body on the floor and Lalo standing in front of them with a gun. Lalo knows that Jimmy wasn't being completely honest with them in their last confrontation when Lalo asked about the delay with his bond money, which we know during that time he was saved by Mike, and I'm sure if Lalo knew that, then Saul would be to Lalo what Nacho was to Gus. So honestly, Lalo might just ask again about that desert trip story, because in his own words,
I paid a lot of money for that story, so I think I can hear it as much as I want.
phones. And now with the gun in the equation, Saul might not be so elegant with his storytelling, especially with what just took place. But with Kim, on the other hand, she's not so easily intimidated, as we see her come face to face with Lalo, and she didn't even flinch when speaking on Jimmy's behalf. Or even when she sees and confronts Mike's men when she notices that she's being followed, backing up what Mike said about her being made of stronger stuff. So when Lalo's talking with Jimmy, Kim might just step in again because she knows that Mike's men are watching them, or so she thinks. She might even be feeling extra brave and even be willing to cooperate with Lalo, knowing that Mike could be around the corner. But we know that all hands are on deck with Mike and Gus, especially with news that Lalo's gonna strike on Gus's turf tonight, whether that's at Gus's home, or decoy home in this case, or even at the laundromat. So with the cooperation of Kim, her and Lalo take a ride to the laundromat, more than likely leaving Jimmy tied up and only left alive because of Kim's cooperation. And in Lalo's twisted humor, he probably ties him up to Howard's body, and while tied up, he can't reach for his phone, so he has to Jimmy his hand loose to get Howard's phone to call Mike for help. And staying within continuity, that could have been the last time Jimmy sees Lalo, because when he brings him up again in Breaking Bad, he still assumes that he's alive.
Oh, thank God. Oh, Christ.
But getting back to Kim and Lalo on their way to the laundromat, he's probably trying to keep her calm and relaxed and even playing some music just to kill the tension. But Kim is most likely dead silent, probably just glancing at the rearview mirror every now and then, checking to see if Mike's men are behind her while she thinks about everything that just transpired. And when they arrive at the laundromat, Lalo might be walking behind Kim with a gun to her back, basically using her as a shield as they enter. Back at Jimmy's apartment, Mike would come to his aid, and Jimmy fills him in on everything that happened, from Howard to Lalo taking Kim. And immediately, Mike alerts his men to prepare for Lalo's arrival. But at that time, the damage has already been done, and Lalo's tearing through guys very similar to how he was in the finale of season 5, and Kim is more than likely injured in the crossfire. Because for one, Mike's the person with the heart, not Gus, and certainly not Gus's men, so they can count Kim as collateral damage. And once Kim is hit, Lalo abandons her and soldiers on as he gets to the pre-meth lab, where he's greeted by Gus at the bottom with his arms stretched like he was in this scene, basically challenging Lalo, but we know that Gus has a gun stashed away under a forklift, so he has a plan. And back with Saul and Mike, they're both scared for Kim's safety as they speed through traffic in Mike's car on their way to the laundromat. Saul is obviously panicking, but Mike shuts him up by handing him a gun, probably even the same gun that he has in Breaking Bad. But once Saul has the gun, Mike tells him the plan. Saul, you're gonna get out the car a block away from the laundromat and proceed with caution the whole way there. I'll do my best to keep Kim out of harm's way, but you make sure you keep out of sight, and above all else, keep your head down. That sounds like something Mike would say, right? So we're back with Lalo and Gus, and we see Lalo monologuing as he's walking down the stairs, just admiring Gus's work, just like how he did when they first met. And Gus is still stone-faced with only his eyes following Lalo until they're face-to-face, and Gus just lays everything out, from the hatred that he has for the Salamancas to even having Nacho as a rat, because at that point, they both realize that only one person is leaving. And in this scene, I'd like to imagine that we see a more savage side of Gus, who gets dirty and fights like the Chilean warrior that he is, using his environment to his advantage, from the construction equipment to the dirt on the floor. And it isn't a part of my theory, but I always thought, what if Gus would have been like a 10th degree black belt and just straight owns Lalo? But nonetheless, Gus and Lalo's fight is both brutal and satisfying, and Lalo gets the better of Gus, knocking him down near the forklift. Then you see Mike enter the room and Lalo standing over Gus, and in a quick thought, Mike shuts the power off, leaving it pitch black. And with just a moment of silence, the room is illuminated by a gunshot flash from Gus, who shoots Lalo in the chest. Mike turns the lights back on to see Gus standing over Lalo and Lalo bleeding on the floor. Cutting back to Saul, we see him enter the laundromat, and as he enters, he hears Kim's groan, and he finds her with a gun in her hand leaning against a washing machine. And we see she's been shot twice, once in the shoulder and once in the abdomen. Jimmy rushes to her side cautiously and does his best to comfort her, and he asks, "Where's Lalo?" And Kim is barely responsive due to severe blood loss, and without thinking, he carries her to Mike's car and drives her to the vet. And while that's happening, Mike is now by Gus's side as they watch Lalo bleed out, and Lalo says in a gargling voice, "You'll never be one of us." A callback to what he had said to Bosa. And Gus slowly aims the gun at Lalo's head and says, "I'm better," and pulls the trigger, putting a bullet right between Lalo's eyes. We then get a POV shot of Kim looking at Jimmy in the backseat of the car as she goes in and out of consciousness, and then she hears Jimmy just trying to find a place to meet the vet. Then she blacks out. She finally comes to in a pet clinic, bandaged up and hooked up to this makeshift IV, and Jimmy's looking down at her, asking if she's alright. Kim nods and just wants Jimmy to hold her, and she realizes that she can't do this anymore. From the cartel to basically being responsible for Howard's death, and now being shot, it's just traumatized her from the whole situation, and you can tell something inside Kim is broke. And when she says that, the vet makes them an offer to buy the black book, and in that book is a card to the vacuum repair shop, and the vet details the purpose of the card the same way Saul would tell Walter Jesse in Breaking Bad. And once that was understood, Saul looks at Kim knowingly, then makes the call, and we hear him say the order for the first time.
Best quality vacuum. How may I help you?
Yeah, I need an adapter for a Hoover Max Extract Pressure Pro Model 60.
The next day passes and we see Saul and Kim packing. It's quiet and everything that's needed to be said is done with looks. And as they're getting ready to go, Kim finds the top to the bottle of Sulfiro vodka on the ground, and she looks at it for a moment, thinking back to her Giselle days. Then she gives it to Jimmy with a loving smile, and as they leave the apartment for the last time, the episode is concluded with that same voiceover in the mid-season finale.
A happy ending.
Hey guys, I want to thank you so much for watching this video. I've been wanting to do a theory video for a while and I finally got around to do it, and I understand I left some things unanswered or unclear, and that's what the comment section is for. Feel free to leave any questions, comments, concerns you may have to the video, and I'll do my best to try to respond to them. And let me know what I should cover next. I'm open to suggestions. Until then, my name is Gerald, but you can call me Merge. Later.